Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM live webinar. I'm Dana Torgersen, Director of Product Marketing for our Security Business Unit here at Sumo Logic. Before I get started, quick housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of this. And for the folks that couldn't make it today, no harm. We have that recording that we'll be able to get into their hands as well. Of course, if there's something here that you're seeing that you realize is compelling, but maybe it's not quite in your team's bucket. Maybe you're in the DevOps side, maybe in the IT ops side, and you're like, well, you know what? I think my SOC guys and gals need to hear more about this. Then that's a great opportunity. You could just toss them that recording or direct them our way, and we'd be glad to go deeper and have a conversation with them as well. And I'm going to take some time at the end for any questions you may have as well. While I'm speaking, feel free to click on the Q&A button in your webinar window and jot down your question. We'll try to get to as many as we can. We've allotted 30 minutes here for this live webinar, and I want to ensure that I get to you folks onto your next meeting as well as you go from Zoom to Zoom to Zoom. So today, talking about our Cloud SIEM solution, the Sumo Logic, and the fact that we've got analytics and automation for SecOps, helping perform those SecOps workflows, which of course can translate to helping get more time back in your day for your analysts, helping with efficiencies with the analysts, and being able to do that cross-source, any source, correlation of threats within one central spot there, so you can find and start working on the critical incidents that matter most. So let me start at the beginning here, because I never quite know for the folks attending this type of format in a live webinar format, who's on what team and who works where. So I'm just going to describe the general SecOps challenges that we've heard loud and clear from organizations around the globe that we talk to, and a lot of them, of course, that have become customers of Sumo Logic. And that's that the security operations it simply just has to change. The SOC has to change. There's a couple of reasons behind that. Let me walk you through that. There's been transformation to cloud with cloud migration spending. It was already growing at 6 times the pace of general IT spending. That was before the pandemic. And 3 out of 4 security teams agree that their cloud security infrastructures generate more alerts than similar on-prem environments. And legacy security tools and SIEMs, the problem there is that they weren't built for the cloud and all this transformation. And that's actually resulted in more threat visibility gaps than ever before. There's also been this shift in the threat landscape. With folks migrating apps to the cloud, it shifted the threat landscape and changed it, and it's now created an explosion of attack surface. In fact, 67% of security professionals say that their increase in the number of security alerts stems from new and evolving threats. So that makes perfect sense. But it was very alarming to hear that 55% are actually blaming the increase in their cloud infrastructures. That makes sense, actually, if you think about it. A simple misconfiguration could lead to a major data breach. We've seen an ongoing attack surface explosion with mobile devices and IoT devices. We've got multi-cloud environments that we're trying to stitch together. We're doing containerization, modern apps like load balancers, VPC flows, continuous delivery, and there's so much more going on. And it all kind of goes downhill to the right here, where security operations is really no longer a human scale problem. 83% of security teams report that their staff are experiencing alert fatigue. And 75%, 3 out of 4 businesses, say they would need to hire 3 or more analysts to actually conquer all of their daily alerts. But facing an ongoing resource shortage and cybersecurity skills shortage means that you can't hire enough people to throw at this problem and address and manually triage all of these alerts. So none of the traditional approaches like legacy SIEMs, keeping that limping along, trying to outsource or maybe hiring more experts, none of these traditional approaches will work for a modern SOC. Instead, organizations really, they need to be able to have a modern cloud SIEM to secure the cloud journey, to be able to match the change in attack surface, and then start to bring innovation back to the SOC. Let me click forward here. So there's today in the demonstration, what I want to showcase are a couple of these key differentiators that we provide with Sumo Logic with our complete Cloud SIEM solution. And I think first and foremost, you're going to see in the upper left-hand corner here the power and the key differentiator of the fact that we're automatically generating these actionable insights. And these aren't just prioritized alerts. but we're developing these insights that allow the security staff, your security staff, to be able to actually jump on these threats that matter most. And we're also helping in the investigative process by automatically enriching these actionable insights with user and network and device context baked right in. So again, shortening the time and the response time by taking care of these normally manual processes and workflows and just putting them all together. And that's what we, I think you'll see in this demonstration here today. It's difficult to describe our massive multi-tenant scalability and the elasticity that we provide in just a simple demo. But the real proof in the pudding comes when you look at a lot of our case studies and our examples and stories of how we are able to do various large sporting events and keeping 230 terabytes of data coming through on average over the day, and then of course still having plenty of room ahead. It speaks to our fact that we have petabyte scale platform that we've built natively in AWS. This wasn't a solution that we've shifted from on-prem code and tried to shoehorn it and run it in a single tenant in someone's cloud. No, this was actually built from the ground up natively. And this is a solution that I hope you can, hopefully it'll come through, that you can envision that it's not just the security operations team members. And again, like I said earlier at the top of the call, not sure who might be in IT ops, who might be in DevOps. This is a platform where all of you folks can come together. And this can also then help drive consolidation of various tool sets as well. You're going to see the power of how we've taken our Sumo Logic deep search that we're known for and integrated it with this highly tuned modern security interface. I think that'll be quite evident as well. And cloud native collection, we kill at cloud collection of data with cloud-to-cloud connectors and API hooks that can bring in your data and ingest it. But then also the power to be able to detect new threats and potential threats across all these different surfaces, which are resulting from hybrid cloud adoption and digital transformation. And the last one on the right, again, probably similar to scalability, it's hard to really demonstrate the value right out of the box. That's something that a lot of our, if not all of our customers are experiencing once they're actually going through a proof of value or eval with Sumo Logic to test drive and do a pilot on the product. And they realize how quickly our intuitive platform is allowing their users to be able to self-service, get trained easily with all of our various certifications that we offer, free online. Plus we also have, when we come back to this one day, on-site training as well. And making sure that this drives rapid time to value. Also, with all of our rich out-of-the-box content rules that are ready to go to make sense of the data that we're ingesting from you folks on in your environments and all your different diverse set of sources into our central platform. Now, what I'm describing here today with Sumo Logic, it probably makes sense for me to explain our security intelligence solutioning as well. So I just wanted to mention that today's focus is on our Cloud SIEM solution, but we also have solutioning for audit and compliance. And some of you might have attended Jason Dunn's presentation yesterday in our monthly series on PCI compliance. If not, don't worry, there's probably a recording out there that you can capture. If not, I'm sure we're going to do this again in December as well. There's also security analytics solutioning too. This is where we're building on the solutioning for compliance, but we offer security analytics with the power of performing deep searches against your data set. And we offer foundational correlation and alerting that's required for analyzing your security event logs, along with data enrichment and visualization of your data, thanks to our pre-built and customizable dashboards. I've got one of them showing right there in the center of the screen for you folks. But there's all these additional capabilities too with integrated threat intelligence via our included industry-leading CrowdStrike threat intel feed, detection and alerting on anomalous behaviors and users via our outlier detection technology. We've got machine learning technology helping for log reduce and log compare to rapidly sift through large data sets and perform time-based comparisons to look for any past activities or behaviors that might be different or out of character, which of course then draws your eyes right to something that is of immediate need. And we also offer a community threat benchmarking capability using our global intelligence service. And this is actually comparing AWS GuardDuty and AWS CloudTrail threat data to that of all other Sumo Logic customers. So it allows you, if you are utilizing AWS, and most folks are these days, you're able to get that immediate trend comparison against how a certain threat might be impacting other folks and your peers, and then how your own environment is handling that. So I show this again, that there's these three different solutionings, but there's these arrows pointing to the right, indicating that when you're in security analytics solutioning, of course, yeah, audit and compliance is there ready. You can utilize that if that's what you want to do. We've got major airlines that use audit and compliance just because they want to handle PCI compliance for the payment cards that they're taking on their aircrafts and also at kiosks on the ground around the globe. But when you are talking about Cloud SIEM, which is what I'm describing today, it's all inclusive. All of these capabilities are in our SIEM. It's a full Cloud SIEM. But what I'm calling out on the right here, which is what the demo and the purpose of getting in front of you folks today is for, is to show that we've got this continuous correlation across a diverse set of sources that you provide with our out-of-box content, making sense of that data, which I mentioned earlier, and the security analyst workflows with built-in event management to make sure that everybody's on the same page, make sure that you're all looking at the same data set, because that's what you've created. You've put all your data into one place. It's effectively a security data lake that you're able to then use for our purposes of how we're going to correlate that data for you, but also you could use it as your own threat hunting platform if that's what one of your use cases might be. And we're providing this automated incident prioritization, this automated alert triage, which is helping to reduce noise drastically for folks to a great degree, reducing that signal to noise ratio. So with that, let me jump on in here and walk you folks through basically what a day in the analyst life looks like once you start using Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM. So let me pop over here for a second. It's driven through a web-based browser interface, as you can imagine. Here we are. This is Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM solution. You're looking at a live environment here. It's a demo environment, of course, but multiple different users are probably banging on this right now, as I am too, but that's what we do when we're live, right? What you're seeing is really, this is our security interface, and this particular page is our HUD. It's our heads up display page. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see today's date, November 18th of 2020. Yes, it is still 2020 for those looking at your calendars, I'm sorry to say, but you get to choose which time view you want to look at. Do you want to see a 4-hour view, 8-hour view? I've got a day showing here. I could easily pop that over and look at a 3-day outlook. And of course, this mass in the center here is our insight radar that just dynamically updated and changed. Your eyes were probably drawn to that, and that's by design. I'll get to that in a second. What we're doing is we are taking raw data ingested from your structured and unstructured data. We're parsing that, we're mapping it, and then automatically we're normalizing that into records. In this case, it looks like we've got 8 million records, which is down about maybe just under a percentage in a 3-day period previous to that. And look, as you can see, this interface is automatically updating. It's dynamic. You know, I'm not having to hit my space button or refresh button for the browser. Yeah, we're pushing these changes and updates. As you go from records, then you get into signals, and the signals is actually showing off these different signals that are all been whittled down from our records. These signals represent rules that have fired against the records. And these rules, there's more than 400 different rules that we have covering a wide variety of different entities and sources, and the detections, the security relevant detections that they've made. And then we've enriched that data as well with different context and feed that we can get into later. So as you can imagine, we're taking this mountain of data that's coming in, and this is just in a 3-day period, 8 million down to 220,000 signals. Others, competing solutions might refer to that as a notable event. In which case, I want to also point out, this is generally where these other solutions are going to stop. And you as a security analyst, or you as a SOC manager, or perhaps the CISO, there's a whole bunch of folks I see here on the call right now. You folks are going to be left to have to go do something now, manual, or maybe through scripts or automation techniques or other vendors that maybe you've strung together to try to whittle that 220,000 down further. And there, there's a whole bunch of different things to do with, methods and techniques in trying to achieve that. Well, Sumo Logic allows you to dig through those signals and use those same techniques if you want, But the benefit, the value that we're providing that's unique to Sumo Logic is the fact that we're whittling down those signals, 222,000. And we've now surfaced in the last 3-day period that I'm looking at particularly right now, 12 of these insights, 12 of these opinionated views of potential security events that need your immediate attention. And we show these over here on the right in this insight radar as these little triangles. Red triangles indicate new insights that nobody has looked at yet and nobody has taken ownership of in investigating and validating. Green indicates ones that have actually been fully investigated and have actually been closed. Yellow and orangish yellow indicates insights that are currently in progress. And as I hover over each of them, I'm getting my timestamp here as well. There's also a color designated a white color, which is for anything that's an other insight. And by other, what that means is that we have these different process flows of new, in progress, closed, other. You're able to fully customize the workflows to your team's current processes and whatever you've named them. Maybe it's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, response, IR team, remediation. When you go and customize those would show up as white here. So you could potentially, depending on your organizational structure and your naming schema, a lot of these could be all in progress and white, because that would indicate that they are in these other categories. So of course, at a high level view, and again, I'm probably speaking to the SOC managers and the CISOs on the call today, you want your team to flip red to green. And you're going to want to check in at the end of the day and you want to see how many green there are versus red. And of course, this is a game that just is a circle of life. It just keeps on, it's the gift that keeps on giving every single day. More alerts come in. And as we show this blue line going around the perimeter here in a clockwise fashion, again, I'm looking at 3 days worth of data here going around the horn. These are the records that we've ingested and brought into the platform from your data. And you can see it ebbs and it flows. And there's also then radiating outwards from the center mass are these kind of light blue bar charts. And these are representing all the different signals that have fired. So in a real production environment, you might have a low level of signals, then you might start getting some spikes. And of course, that could be a quick visual indicator that something bad is happening. And then in the center, again, these are the insights going clockwise around the horn in a 3-day fashion. And you can drill down on these and then get right into it. This is a great screen that a lot of customers choose to throw up on their large walls in their SOC too, because it gives a quick overview of the insights that you're trying to track. Again, depending on the persona of who wants to actually work these different insights and flip from red to green. You're seeing a quick at a glance timestamp of the progress of records to signals to insights. This is an area here filled with a bunch of sensor status data that would have all the different collectors that would be bringing your data. So you can see the health of those different sensors, which is great. And on the right-hand side, you're able to see quickly all the various insight activities. This is the most recent insight activity has fired and is shown here on the right, as well as different comments that people are either leaving or actions that they have taken show up over here on the right-hand side. So if I drill into an insight, this is our insight detail page. This is in a Kanban board style view. When I told you about those white triangles representing other insights, a great example of that would be like tier 3. This one would be probably that white one that we saw on the screen. Spec Ops, that's our special operations. It's a separate service that we offer, optional service for threat hunting with our elite team of cybersecurity experts that are working with customers basically as a force multiplier. So this might be an example of where some insights are in their bucket for them to work on and focus on. And then of course, closed, I'm actually suppressing that right now. I could turn off that filter and you can see all the total, oh, look at that, 1,601 insights have been closed. Well, I don't need to dwell on what we've already done. As a SOC manager, as a CISO, that's great. Congratulations, folks, you did a good job, but let's go get on the new ones. So your team is able to look at this view. There's also a tabular or list view, depending on your preference. Each analyst can change these settings to their own liking. It's all independent of each other's analyst, but at least you're all working from the same data set. Some folks like this view instead because it gives you a tabular view, shows you a little baseball card style heat map here on the right, indicating which signals fired, which makes up this one single insight. But I'll go back to the board view. And as I'm looking at this board here for all the new ones, I can grab an insight. This one is insight 1614. Looks like the tactic involved here is initial access with execution and credential access. Interesting. And as the first signal that I see, which makes up this listing here, it looks like it's Office 365. A potentially malicious URL click was detected. Okay, well, I'm tracking the recipient of who did that. I'm seeing the credential access. In my signals here, this is the MITRE attack chain framework stage. And so we've named the stage for the rule that fired this particular signal. And we show the signals also in a graphical visual view up above here, where you can see the time from left to right and the severity of the particular signal from 0 to 1 to 3 to 4 to 5. 5 is the midline here, the horizontal midline, and it goes on up to 10. So I want to call something out right off the bat, folks. This looks like a great example of a stealthy, under the radar style of attack, which traditional SIEMs, even some so-called next-gen SIEMs that might be cost prohibitive, where you might not want to send all of your low severity event data to your SIEM, this might be an attack that you have totally missed. Made up of a severity level 5, looks like there's a severity level of, let me see if I can hover on that, severity 1, yeah. And then there's a couple of anomaly-based signals that triggered all within a tight succession of time here, as well as an impossible travel activity. So clearly somebody's hopping around the world because different IP addresses were being detected. How could they possibly be here and there? So that's another example of a use case based rule which triggered. So it's this one-to-many relationship. A whole bunch of different activities that we've strung together and observed have helped create this one single insight. And so this is what we mean when we're talking about whittling down all this data and presenting it to you folks. We're making sure that you're seeing what matters most. And you can drill down, you can understand that there was, okay, a potentially malicious URL was clicked. A threat intel URL had a match, okay? I'll drill down into this signal. I see a full description of what the signal is, the severity level, the rule that actually triggered this, and I can drill down deeper, going down the rabbit hole into the different rules and what day or what weeks it has ever fired. Again, this is a demo environment, so this is firing probably every day for demonstration purposes, but you can imagine in your mind in a production environment, you'd probably have just a few select one of these cyan boxes that would fire, giving you a quick visual of, okay, this is exactly when it happened here, or the number of times that it happened, like in this example. A rule is very simple to set up. I mean, we have, again, more than 400 rules that are already out of the box, ready to go. You can clone and edit those rules if they're close, but not quite close enough to your exact needs. And you can create a new one from scratch as well, or import existing data and create a rule out of that. Using our template guides here, if triggered, when a record matches the expression in this example, we'll create this signal. Using this particular name, which is what was used, and then a description with a constant severity or maybe a dynamic severity with a range from 1 all the way up to 10. You could have it as a prototype rule. You can see the history of this rule, any insights that this rule fired, and all the different signals that this rule fired. And there was 164. Again, this is a demo environment, which is probably why the reason for that count. So I'll go back here to this signal. And remember, the signal can be made up of 1 or more records. In this case, it's just a 1-to-1 ratio. It's 1 record. There could be tens and dozens or hundreds of records that made up this signal. In this example, it looks like it was data pulling from Microsoft Office 365, threat intelligence URL. I can see the overview here of the device entity that was tracked in it. We tie all of our insights to an entity. An entity can be an IP address, a host name, device name, etc. And it looks like this was, looks like Zscaler. ISP was Zscaler here. Looks like the threat intelligence came through. This particular was the username involved, Napoleon Dynamite, which is, that's just funny for some reason. Okay, and then all these different extracted fields that we are now showing to you as the analyst to go deeper. You want to see all the full details. Maybe you prefer to view it in this manner and format. Great, you can switch that over. You want to download the file, export it as CSV or JSON file format, maybe using another tool that you already trust and rely on. Great, this is where your journey begins though, is coming here out of the signals. You want to go deeper and understand more about the different information that you're trying to investigate and validate. We also have context actions as well. When you hover over different elements that are in blue with these 6 little dots, it allows you to quickly do a quick search across for that particular entity, maybe search all of the records to find where else this particular IP address, 165.225. What are we looking at? .50.195, and it looks like there was just one record type. In other situations, you could be having dozens or hundreds or thousands or millions of records that are tied to that particular IP address. And again, this is a demo environment here. When you've gone through and you've looked at all the different signals that make up an insight, and you realize, yep, they got it. This is great. I'm glad this was detected. This definitely looks bad. I'm gonna go deeper into this. You could take actions. You could automate actions and have them set up so that it's automatically triggered when this insight was created in the first place. Or you could also come over here to the left and choose from this pull down list of customizable actions that you can set up elsewhere in the product. And you could be sending it off to a SOAR tool that maybe you've already invested in, sending it off to ServiceNow, sending it off to Recorded Future. There's so much stuff you can do in Slack. It seems every week there's something new being added. So you could also be sending off an email too. And you want to execute email insight action. Maybe I'm waking up my team members or alerting other executives of this potential incident that we've just investigated. Go ahead and execute that, and the email will get sent out. When you are working in Insight, maybe I'm an analyst. I want to assign it to myself, take ownership of it. One click, and that's exactly what I've done. Dana Torgersen, I just grabbed it. I could have also assigned it to any of my other teammates, especially if I'm delegating out the workload. I can create tags to be able to find this again. This was clearly a Office 365 account compromise from what it looks like here. So I could probably send that as a tag here, account compromise. And that way, in the future, when we're searching for items, this insight will come back and give us that recollection of, we've seen this before, haven't we? There's also the ability to leave commenting as well, maybe to another team member. And when I'm all done, I'm ready to close out the insight and move on to the next insight, because this really is just, we're talking just seconds to minutes that analysts will be able to get into the groove and cruise through these insights each day. You choose what resolution that you had. Maybe it was absolutely resolved. Maybe it was a false positive. Maybe no action was needed. Or heck, maybe it was a duplicate. Mark it as such, close the insight with any additional comments, and then it'll actually move it. And back where we were in this insights view, that action to close the insight would have moved it from new or in progress or wherever we were in the workflow over to the closed file. And again, you can see I've put a filter on that's on by default. So I'm not messing up and getting distracted by looking at all my closed items, because I'm actually suppressing this. The status is not closed. So that is a quick overview, I realize, of the Cloud SIEM solution. There's a lot to take in here, but I also realize that this is quite straightforward. When we said it's intuitive, we said we're going to show the differentiations of how we're automating all of that alert, triage, and prioritization down to just a handful of things, which we think is quite achievable for a security team to be able to get to and address quickly. You can still go dig into signals. You can still go hunting if your heart is in it and if you've got the time. But we feel if you can go address these insights first and handle those, your security posture will improve dramatically, especially when you're finding these cross-source correlated threats that we are surfacing automatically on customers' behalves. So with that, let me switch back over here because I've been talking here about features and differentiators and products, but it's not just the bells and the switches, it's also the people. The fact that we've got support when you need it most, stretching from professional services to help you get onboarded quickly and address any specific use cases you need and make sure any customized data is brought in and ingested properly. Premium support, which of course is for the long duration to make sure that you're successful in what you've onboarded and what you've deployed. And at the tip of the pyramid here is also, I mentioned before, Spec Ops, or Special Operations is the full name. This is that mission-focused, team-oriented threat hunting, which is performed by our elite team of these experts from multiple different government and top industries. And they're the ones that are there as a force multiplier. You've got a small security SOC team, great. They can help back you up. You've got a large team, great. We know that you can't hire enough people. we know that there's not enough folks out there with the degree of that level 3 and beyond expertise that you can just hire and get off the street. Here's another great reason that these folks can be your additional support team to help drive threat hunts and help tuning your rules and making you aware of the threat landscape as they see it from their expertise brought into yours. So with that, I realize we've reached the bottom of the item here. Let me see if there's any questions from folks. I'm actually not seeing any questions right now. So, and that's fine. You know, it's a lot to take in, I realize. What I want to make sure you understand is that we've got a whole team of folks here ready to help and address any questions that you may have. You could reach out to your Sumo Logic account manager within your local region, wherever you are calling in from across the globe, but also reach out to your Sumo Logic authorized reseller. They would be more than happy to answer any questions and address your needs as well. With that, I'm Dana Torgersen, again, Director of Product Marketing here in our security business unit at Sumo Logic. I want to thank you for your time. I want you folks to stay safe and have a great rest of your day.